Welcome back, everybody. My name is Grace, or Gibby, whatever you prefer, and today I'm here with a guide to Baorus Deathrite, the Void Boss. Now, you'll notice I'm not fighting Baorus right now, and that is because I have been making a lot of Void Boss guides, and I've been building them up as the Void rotation has been going on. I started around Kakis several months ago, but I haven't received feedback on any of those bosses for those individual videos that I made, or clips that I collected. And so I want to post this Baorus video because one, Baorus is a relatively difficult boss, and two, I did some careful work ahead of time before this video, or before recording these clips. So basically, my goal is to get some feedback on the format and the style and the information and basically the nature of the boss guide. Because if the Baorus guide is good, then the other Void Boss guides that I've made and done voiceovers for will also be good. But if my audience thinks that they need some work or could be better formatted in a different way, then I can edit those clips now instead of doing them all at once when I first release my entire Void guide with all of the Void Bosses. So, before you get into watching the Baorus clips, or you can just skip to the timestamp listed below. But before you get into them, I'd appreciate if you took a moment to let me know in the comments if you think there's something particularly wrong with the guide, or something that could be easily improved, or even more difficultly improved. Just let me know what you think if you have strong opinions. Otherwise, I hope you enjoy the video and that this Baorus guide is very effective. Have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace and love. Baorus the Deathrite is a human necromancer light monster with roughly 5k HP and 125 damage cap with 0.25 clawback. He has a wide variety of mechanics which include inflicting a poison on his basic attacks, and then after he inflicts the poison, attempting to control you with his basic attacks for 2 turns. The poison is based off light resistance, that's how strong the power is, and as well, the control is based off light resistance and your armor lean. So an FO armor will have a higher chance of being stunned than an FD armor. The poison can also stack in power since it's an extremely long duration, so he can use it multiple times and stack it up. Both of the statuses are inflicted even if he does 0 damage through things like Baby Egg or Barrier stacking, so you cannot make him do 0 damage and then still resist the status. Also, the poison heals him for the damage dealt. Also, he has 50 harm and void resistance, so those types of damage sources will not do well against him. So the poison and control are both affected by light resistance, as I mentioned, and again the control is affected by armor lean. His attack cycle is that he attempts to poison the player until he succeeds, then he does control twice, then he goes back to poison until he succeeds, and the cycle continues. The status rolls for the poison and the control are strength, luck, versus the player's end luck. Baorus has 275 strength and 225 luck, so that can be difficult to surmount if you don't have endurance or luck. I recommend one or both, depending on your build. Baorus also has several triggers against the player if they have an undead subrace, or are in an undead tagged armor. So if you're a Neko but you're using a vampire armor for some reason, you would still get the trigger. First off, the poison deals double damage. And as you can see in this kill, I'm a werepire, so I am taking double damage from the poison. This is not visible in the poison power, it's an invisible modifier. As well, the control is a 1.5 times more likely multiplier if you're undead. It's also 1.5 times more likely if you're poisoned, so usually you won't be poisoned or not poisoned and under control, but it can happen if you cleanse the poison. So, there are a variety of strategies you can use. The strategy I'm currently showcasing on screen is using a -10 light resistance Misc to basically cheese the boss. Even though he might stack an extremely strong poison or hit me a lot, since my light resistance is 3%, I'll be taking next to no damage and he'll be healing next to no HP from the poison. This will work for undead players, even though he gets those bonuses, and that's why I'm doing this as an undead subrace. Some other methods I use are I use a little brute force, barrier, and efficient spellcasting method in the Neko armor. Now you'll see that method next, and just know that if you're not using the Neko armor and you have an undead subrace, that method will be significantly more difficult for you, and it may not work without further optimizations. However, the status resistance method that I showcase after that will work for all players, even if they have an undead subrace, because by completely resisting his statuses, you negate the opportunity for him to use his undead triggers. You can also dodge all of his attacks, and if you dodge all of his attacks, he will not be able to inflict his statuses. Finally, while barriers and mana shields and chi shields do not prevent him from inflicting his statuses, they will prevent him from lifestealing with his poison heal. So he'll be much easier to deal with. Overall, high hit count is extremely good against Baorus. Abilities to cleanse poison, which are listed on my document, linked below in the description, are also very effective. Protosea and Amethyst Guard are the best versions, and keep in mind the gold version of Protosea will work for your purposes, even though it's level 10. And also status resistance if you have access to some of these seasonal and rare items like the Enchanted Emerald Misc or Franken-Twilly, or you're willing to use Paladin and Zorbak's Ally Assist, then you will have a very easy time resisting the status and thereby killing the boss without any struggles. I hope this was informative, and I will show you the rewards and the next few attacks after we kill the boss. So, you'll see how much gold he gives in my later kills. I gold capped in between those methods and this method, but here is Baorus's shop. He does have a house guard, and he has a painting as well, so you can fight him at any time. His only item reward is the Deathrite Whip Blade, which is simply a 100 proc melee light sword, which has a trigger against undead monsters that it can either control them or poison them, which you can toggle between. Many people think that 100 proc melee weapons are terrible or useless. I'm against this opinion. In particular, the Deathrite Whipblade has a 46% chance to control at 100% light resistance, which makes it an extremely potent stun lock option against undead monsters without freedom. The poison is okay. Aside from that, those are his rewards, and now we'll transition into the next two methods that I showcase. This Baorus method is using a Tanky Mage setup. Now I'm specifically not running Endurance, so that I'm more likely to end up losing the roll against the poison and the control, and the reason I'm doing that is that I can show you that this method is reliable and simple. We're going to be using a multi-hit light spell, the Mana Barrier Shield, which gives you a small barrier based on your light spell hits. So if you cast a light spell with the Mana Barrier Shield, you gain a small barrier, as you can see. And the We're also using the Mystic Retro Golden Axe, which when you cast a light spell, restores some MP and or SP, depending on how high your resource bars are. We're also in the Neko armor, and we have Luck and Intellect in the Ilahi Urt of Osiris Misc, so we have high BTH to counter his high magic defense. Now the method is simply to spam this spell, and there are two benefits. One, since it's a light spell, it hits his highest resistance, well, 3 benefits. 2, we're using the Mystic Retro Golden Axe, so we restore some of our resources, depending on how many hits we hit. And 3, the shield gives a barrier, which blocks the poison's damage, and then will prevent him from healing off of his poison. Now you'll note that we are getting stunned on occasion. We have a 30% chance whenever he wins his control roll. However, as you can see, I don't have a guest out, I've barely lost any SP, and Baorus is low on HP. Now I am going to drink a mana potion to make this method faster, but it would still be very reliable with just a tome using draw mana or another mana regen source. I'll just finish up the kill, spamming the same spell. Any light spell would work, although I recommend at least a 4 hit count because his damage cap is extremely low, and since he has high defense, we want to make sure we're hitting at least some hits, so the Mystic Retro Golden Axe will still restore resources. I think I'll only have to use 2 mana potions for this kill, and again, you could substitute that by waiting a couple turns and using a tome draw mana effect. Now this method is not optimized. There's actually some anti-synergy in using the Ilahi Urt of Osiris Misc and barriers, since it doesn't lower the damage done to the barrier. However, as you can see, the method is working extremely well. And on my next turn, I should kill Baorus, or perhaps the turn after that. So this is a very simple Tank Mage method. You could run Endurance as well if you wanted to be safe. You'll note I could have had a healing guest out, and I probably would have remained at full HP the entire kill. On to the next method. This next Baorus method revolves around status resistance. Now, you can check my Google Doc for specific examples, but today what we're going to be doing is boosting our Charisma and Luck, the Luck of which directly affects the status roll for his poison. The Charisma indirectly affects the status roll by buffing both Frankentwilly and the Fenris Pup. I've got the Fenris Pup for Endurance, and I've got the Bronze Bulwark Shield for Endurance as well. So all of these boost my chances. I've also got the Poison Neutralizer Lucretia Potion and the Communicant's Wisdom Misc. Now before I do that, I am going to restore some SP. But with all of these combined, I have some severe overkill on the poison resistance needed so that he can't poison me. Now, the Bronze Bulwark and the Fenris Pup are both tokens. I recognize that not everyone has access to those, and Frankentwilly is seasonal. However, what you can do is use the Paladin Armor in the Zorback Ally Assist. Now this will give you 20 status resistance, called Resilient Aura, 20 or 22, depending on if you have a Charisma boost or an Endurance boost. And that will substitute for these less available items. But I'm going to do the kill in Neko because I like it better. Now that I have enough status resistance and I win the status roll enough to resist the poison completely, I'm going to simply attack Baorus down, and I should have no issues sustaining my HP, SP with Essence Orb, and status resistance, the healing from Frankentwilly. This kill will be very simple, so I will just simply auto attack and restore SP with Essence Orb when needed. Now that we're getting to the end of the kill, I want to recognize that I also used a charisma-based weapon, because otherwise I would have done very little damage. If you don't have a charisma-based weapon, I recommend an auto-hit weapon instead, like Burden of Insight or the Fujin Blade, or another auto-hit weapon, whatever you have, because his defenses are quite high for having no main stat and no charisma weapon. That's this method, a status resistance method that you can substitute your own status resistance items for, but I used several of mine.